RM Sothebys is the world's largest collector car auction house by total sales. They are the preeminent market maker of high-quality collector cars and collections, regardless of size or complexity. By working in partnership with the Sothebys team and its network of 80 offices in 40 countries, RM Sothebys has established the largest client network of any collector car auction house in the world. Join the RM Sothebys family by connecting with one of their car specialists at rmsothebys.com or contact me directly at gstanley@rmsothebys.com. LLC TLC is here to save you money on all of your vehicle purchases. LLC TLC will permanently register your classic cars in Montana to avoid any annual renewal fees. As your registered agent, they will handle everything for you so you never have to step foot in Montana. And as a listener of this podcast, LLC TLC is offering 30% off your entire package. Simply go to llctlc.com/classic or mention this podcast when you contact LLC TLC directly. All right, welcome to the Collector Car Podcast. This is going to be a unique and different episode, mostly because I'm actually interviewing someone while someone's interviewing me. We've never done this before, so it's for two different podcasts. So I'd like to welcome William Ross. William, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic, Greg. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. So you're turning the tables on me a little bit by asking me some questions here in a minute, and I'm going to ask you some questions. So why don't I kick it off? What is the podcast that you're interviewing me for? And then also, I know we want to talk about like the Ferrari marketplace and different things that you're involved with.
Yes, Greg. So welcome, listeners on my side to the Ferrari marketplace. We're going to interview Greg here from RM Sothebys, and if those of you that are watch and listen, because we did a episode on the Ferrari 250 GTO that Greg was very integral in helping procure, set up, do the whole program, everything with Sotheby's for the auction. So we're going to talk about that with Greg and some other things because he does a lot of cool, fun stuff. He goes and sees a lot of cool collections. So he's put eyes on a lot of cool stuff. So, and again, I'm going to ask him questions. He's going to ask me questions. So it's going to be different, but it's going to be fun. So you guys you're getting a twofer on this. So it's
That's
good
right.
Stuff.
Yeah. And we actually met up, it was Eyes on Design weekend up in Detroit. And I happened to go to the M1 Concours. And I actually met you there because you were doing quite a bit of live streaming and activity. So what kind of stuff do you typically put out there for your listeners and your viewers?
In my part of the world and in your part of the world, because you're just down south in Cincinnati. So I'm up north in Cleveland. So me and Greg are not actually that far apart, so we have to travel a bit to get some really cool events. We got some there's the Cincinnati has a great concours they do down there. They started, that was what, like 4 or 5 years ago? How old is that?
No, it's old, 1978.
78. All right, my bad. And but anyway, so we kind of got to go distances to go find some cool stuff, which isn't bad because we're both kind of right in the middle of heartland, so going to places. But I try to go to the events that obviously there's so many during the summer, during this time of year, that people are unable to attend. So I try to just give them a little insight, and go to the events that hey, people that say live in California, but they can't go next weekend's the Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix. Go doing the event with the ACO and that up at the M1 Concours, stuff like that, then going, seeing some collections and whatnot, if they allow me to video or take anything, as some people are very private. I just try, I have fun with it. What I go do daily, because as you probably get asked, I'm sure quite a bit, that either people that want to get into this business are in this business or just intrigued by it, is how do you go see all these things? How you get asked all these, you got such a cool fun job and this and that, and so it's like they want to know what you're doing. They kind of get intrigued about what's this person do during the day, or what when they go to these events, what do they do? So it's kind of like just a little insight into it, and it's fun because the one thing is it opens up that door for opportunity to really kind of, I guess, they interview someone and get to know them a little bit more instead of just casual conversation. You set the stage having that camera in regards to, okay, hey, do you mind if we talk a little bit on camera? And I'm going to answer some questions, so you can sidestep, because if you're just, as if you're having just a personal conversation with someone, there's certain questions you're probably, how's that going to come up in the conversation? Well, if you're interviewing them for content and just, background, history or whatnot, there's questions you can ask that don't seem odd, like, why the F did he ask me that? It's one of those scenarios, because it's, because obviously, networking is huge in this industry, and meeting people, because I mean, there's awesome people in this industry. I mean, 95% of the people,
Right. Very high.
are
Yeah.
awesome. You're gonna, in anything, you're gonna have those 5%ers that are just, yeah, you steer clear of them. But it's one, it opens doors, it's grab too, but it's just a lot of fun. It's this day and age with YouTube and doing the podcast and everything like that, it really kind of takes things to a different level in regards to, I guess you say, involvement, because you look at it from a different angle than going to it. Like in years past, I'd go to things and whatnot to talk to people, get card, contact info stuff, hey, what do you have? Hey, if you ever want to do this, that kind of stuff. But then, you look at the cars and whatnot, but when now it is, you'll come up to a car and you'll start explaining it, because you got a lot of people that might not know what it is, or they're very minimal in regards to their knowledge of certain cars. So it kind of really gets you more involved in it. And I guess you could say for me, I want not to say reignited the passion for it, because that's always been there, but just changed up how I approach going to things. It's like now it's like, I have my mind, because I'll look at, say entry lists or whatnot, what's there. It's like, okay, I want to go look at this car, this car, this car. And hopefully the owners stand there, because then again, you can interview them, everything like that. It's a whole different way of approaching things and going at it. And it's a lot of fun. I got, my big thing is, we talked about up at M1, is I got, I'm LinkedIn I love LinkedIn. I got the YouTube channel, we do the podcast, Instagram, that kind of stuff. But, I found on LinkedIn, that's more business oriented. I get a lot more, responses, contact, people reaching out to me, everything like that, from what I put up on LinkedIn. YouTube and Instagram, whatnot, that's just for, hey, look at this, check this out, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you're going to get some response, but hey, that's a great car. Oh, hey, look like you had fun, da, da, da. Like I was just at this past weekend in Salem, Ohio. They had this really cool, the Classic Car Club of America, had this like multi-day event, do some burgers, all old like pre-war stuff and stuff like that. They do a driving tour like that. So I put some stuff on that, and you get a ton of response. Oh, those are gorgeous. Oh, I remember this, that kind of stuff. But whereas LinkedIn, you put it up there, someone's going to, oh, hey, I saw that. This, oh, I have this thing for sale. Or, hey, I got someone I'll put you in contact with, because they're thinking about selling this or thinking about buying,
Right.
Open up the doors a lot more for business opportunities. And, as got to make money, got to pay the bills. So,
So tell us, before you turn the microphone over in my direction here and ask me some questions, tell us about like the Ferrari marketplace, how people can find you, and kind of like, are you doing stuff weekly? Is it daily? Is it monthly? Kind of where they can find you and what you're posting out there.
These ways, just go to theferrarimarketplace.com is the, just go to the website. As you delve into it, there's a lot more other layers to it. We're kind of building out, it's under the umbrella of the exotic car marketplace. So we have not only the Ferrari marketplace, the Porsche marketplace, but we have some other subsequent model brands that will be coming down the line that we've got in there that'll be all under there. But I'm trying to get a buddy of mine that's a big Porsche person to take over the Porsche marketplace.com aspect of it, so that because I love Porsches, but I just don't have time wise to kind of start doing these other things. Usually new content comes like every week, every 2 weeks at most. So either be, new videos, new podcasts. I just started doing this a little while ago. Started doing, I guess, background stuff on, my specialty, I guess you could say, is I do all the Enzo era stuff. That's where I kind of focus on. I'll get into F40s, F50s, those kind of things, Enzos. But like the new stuff and like F4, 5.8, that's not me. That's everyone else. Let them deal with it. The Gen Z people and stuff like that and everything along those lines. But I'm doing like some historical stuff on. I'm just kind of like, okay, here's this model. Kind of, this is where, hey, creation wise, what they did with it, if it had race history, kind of give a little insight into the cars so people understand. Because as you look at these, it was such a different era in regards to how cars were built, especially by them. and what those cars were meant to do and be.
Mhm.
When you do low volume like that and they're all hand built, one car to the next is not the same, and they can pivot. They can build 4 cars here, then all of a sudden the 5th car is something completely different regard to competition or whatnot. Like 4 steel bodies, hey, number 5 is going to be aluminum body. Car 6 is going to be a competition car. It was awesome when they were doing that, because obviously regulations were non-existent, so to speak, in regards to what you had to have to put them on the road. So it's interesting to kind of put that out, and it's not anything in depth like pages and pages. I try and get a little more concise with it. I'll put links and everything in it so people can kind of click on it to delve into it more if they want.
Right.
Because it's such an interesting. Everyone thinks Ferrari. A lot of people kind of have this, not to say stigma, but like image thinking, ooh, Ferrari, la-di-da, but if you start digging into more and what it was, I mean, it's really impressive what he was able to do with his limited resources, in essence.
Right.
Right. It's not like this guy was, Fiat or something like that, and bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars a year in revenue. I mean, his main thing was racing. He just built streetcars to support his racing, and he was, asked backwards in regards to finances and whatnot all the time, but somehow he did it. And he built world-conquering cars. I mean, the only way he got beat, that small little place out of Maryland, was, Ford Motor Company with billions of dollars coming in and taking many years to do it. It wasn't like they came out of the gate, to beat him basically and do it. So I just think it's a very storied brand. And if you can see behind me, basically, those are all Ferrari stuff, all books, everything. I do a lot of reading, and so it's kind of one of the things that, and as you probably know, is you'll be talking to someone, you see something online, someone mentions a book, and you're like, oh, I haven't heard. You go, you buy it. There's so many places you can buy these books. Like, and then I had my one buddy, Eric from up there. He got me this, because obviously people know I'm a Ferrari guy. He bought me this bow tie Ferraris. About the Ferraris from the 50s and 60s that people stuffed the Ford and Chevy engines in, pulled out the V12s and stuffed those in. I mean, that was a really cool book, because again, not a lot of people realize that was very common over here in the United States.
Sure,
very common. And
funny. Oh, go ahead.
And what always baffled me with that though is because, like, in this day and age, you read the story, the guy's got the TR that someone stuffed the Ford or Chevy in. And then, 30, 40 years later, reunited with its original engine. It's amazing to me that you can find it for one, and do it. But it just shows you the wherewithal of people. And that was before internet.
Yeah.
Think amazing about that. You have such a close-knit, group and community, like, call shows and this and that. But it's just, it's really neat. But anyway, sorry to go on that tangent.
No, it's interesting you talk about having the right book and such, and I'm doing some Bugatti research, and I just had Philip Richter on, and I think he mentioned it, but somewhere I read, it was a Jay Leno video. He was reviewing one of his Bugattis, and he mentioned Peter Mullen and the Mullen Museum, and the book you have to get is The Art of the Bugatti, and so I actually found it. It's the Mullen, and they're out of business now. The museum.
Yeah.
It's out of business now. They closed down. Oh yeah. And thankfully I found it used on Amazon, but it's like brand new. But it's key. There's certain books that are key you definitely have to have in order to, be able to knowledgeably speak about certain marks, right? So
well, the other thing too, especially those ones like you said are out of print. And they were done, in the 60s or 70s or even 80s, because a lot of those guys, like, a lot of those books I have up there were guys that were part of the factory, part of the program, part of whatever, insider knowledge, and they're writing about it. Those people are long gone. That was it. You're not going to be able to go and sit down and talk with these people, and so it's hunting them down. And thank God, for Amazon, the internet and everything like that, and finding these and getting it, because to your point, it's such great knowledge to know and learn. And and some people might think it's, oh, well, just because you're trying to sell. No, I mean, to me personally, and I'm sure with you, it's very interesting stuff in regards to how something came about, the whole process in regards to starting, starting product to finished product. It's like, okay, idea to completion, that whole process in between. No computers, no nothing. I mean, you're dealing with people who build stuff with hands, wooden bucks,
Right.
doing stuff by hand, English wheel stuff. I mean, I love that stuff. I mean, and I'm sure you saw it, and that's why one day I hope I can go to Jay Leno's garage and you can fill us in a little bit because I know he has an unbelievable workshop as well. Everyone sees his cars, but he's got just like everything and anything you pretty much need or want to restore a car, which is awesome.
It's interesting. Yeah, and feel free to ask me some questions here. I know you have a list of stuff as well, but from the Jay Leno perspective, it was really interesting. I didn't get to see as much of the restoration shop as I walked through there briefly when I was on my drive with Jay, him driving, me riding, and my 66 GTO, Pontiac GTO, not Ferrari GTO. My wife and the two daughters of the original owner of the Pontiac, they had like 45 minutes to an hour just to kind of wander around, and they met all the mechanics and stuff because they just kind of had to fill their time. And I was slightly envious because I wanted to meet those guys and talk to those guys. So, but I'll have your link to the Ferrari Marketplace in the description of this podcast, obviously. What questions do you have for me?
So for the Ferrari Marketplace listener side, now, as we mentioned before, and as I said, doing a podcast on my thing a while back when it was beginning, walk me through, because you were integral in regards to the Ferrari 250 GTO that Sothebys auctioned off a while back in New York. Now, and that car is very interesting as well, because that was one of the things I kind of talked about in my episode, was one of the few 330 chassis built, but was rebodied as the Series 1 250 GTO. So that was kind of the topic in regards to speaking with people like, okay, so is it a real 250 GTO? Because it's originally 330, so
I'll give you I'll give you the recap of it. So it was never rebodied per se. All right. So the nuts and bolts of it is you had 36 GTOs. This was original GTOs, 250 GTOs. This was not one of those. There were 3 prototype cars built to compete in other classes of racing. And so this one was created with a 250 GTO body, but with a 330 running gear so that it would run at Le Mans. So it was a larger displacement engine, 4-liter versus 3-liter, 4-speed versus 5-speed. So it was designed specifically to capitalize on a class of racing at Le Mans, which is why it was called the 330 LM for Le Mans. Mm-hmm. And it's so confusing because I don't care who it is, not one single article got the car correct.
No, they didn't, obviously.
and the most correct, Steve Algram, that writes for Sports Car Marketplace, he was like, so almost there. So anyways, fascinating car. If it was one of the 36, it would have brought more. Yeah. A difficult car to market because of that. Like, nobody knows what a 330 LM is. It looks like a 250 GTO. A year into its existence, it was taken back to the factory, and the 250 GTO drivetrain was put in there. And so it became a 250 GTO from the factory a year after it was built. So just a complex car, a great car. And, the question becomes, do you want to put it back to the way it was originally, where it would be basically a big engined GTO, or do you want to have it as it last raced as a 250? And it's somewhat hard to identify which is better. If you take it back to the 4-liter when it was originally constructed, it actually had kind of an ugly nose on it. Had like a mail slot. It didn't have the iconic 3D scoops that we all love about the GTO. But it was the only one made from the factory that way. And so, like, Ferrari would love to see it with its mail slot nose back on. But then I got the 3D scoops when it was turned into a 250
Yeah.
GTO later, which is just absolutely stunning. So it's kind of, which one do you do? I said on one of my podcasts, I would just keep it the way it is as a 250 GTO with the 3D slots, enjoy the heck out of it for 10 years. When it truly needs a restoration, then I would put it back to the 4-liter spec as a 330 LM and enjoy it that way.
I always try to dig around, and I talked to a few people like prior to that auction, and I got on the phone, and maybe you'll know, because no one was 100% sure, could figure out. Some people said, oh, they know where it is, or oh no, it's gone forever. Where did that original motor was that original motor known? Like right now, if you want to put it back how it was born with the bigger motor in it, do they know where that motor is?
So we know where the motor was as of like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And so I can't remember off the top of my head. Know the chassis that it's related to, or the chassis that it was put into by a very private owner, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, is someone that has fallen off of the collector car landscape, I guess is the best way to put it. One of my fun things is I like to dig and try to figure this stuff out. So I have it on my list of to-dos is see if I can dig up who that person is and where they are. They weren't in the US, which is one of the complicating factors. I believe they were in Asia. So I think it was an Asian collector that has a Ferrari that has that engine in it. But like I said, I don't know the situation there. I would love to make that connection and see if I could find that car and find that engine to where the current owner, who I can't say who it is, who bought the car, that they could reunite the original 4-liter with it, because it does have the original 3-liter that was put into the car a year later, which we didn't go into it too in depth for the auction because we didn't want to make it confusing. But that actual 3-liter that's in the car that was put in there by Ferrari actually came out of a wrecked race car that Phil Hill drove. So the actual engine has quite a bit of provenance attached to it and race history. I forgot the car it was in. It was either, I can't remember the car that it was in, but it was the engine, the 3-liter had quite a bit of provenance, and that's the engine that's in the car now.
How did you come about, I guess you'd say, because I know how long have you been with Sothebys?
So I've always been part-time as a consultant until recently. I'm doing it full-time now. About 4 years, right as COVID hit, unfortunately. So my first official auction was Amelia Island right before the world shut down, walking around Amelia Island like 2 weeks before COVID shut down the world.
Yeah. Interesting times. So how do you, so 4 years in that span, I mean, one, it's impressive because, how did you become involved with that 250 GTO sale? I mean, did you know who the owner was? Was it just, hey, Sothebys, because luck of the draw? I mean, how'd you get tied in with this, involved in the sale?
So when you become a car specialist, even as a consultant, you're trying to network, obviously, meet people, have it be known that if someone wants to sell a car through a big global auction house like RM Sotheby's, hey, I know a guy, and so I would go to the Concours events, I go to car shows, I go to cruise-ins, shake hands, talk to people, do podcasts or whatever. That car is local to Cincinnati, so I was familiar with the car because it's one of the few. I mean, Cincinnati, there's 2 GTOs in Cincinnati at the time, which is unbelievable. The 39, if you count the 3 prototypes. And so I did not know the family beyond saying hello to one of the son at a Concours event, just like you would if you talk to anyone at a Concours. Hey, love the car, whatever. And then when I came on board with RM, I just amped up, not just across the board, amped up my interaction with the Cincinnati Concours, try to interact with all the folks that I could. Over that following couple years, I became friends with the family, and it was funny because the way it kind of transpired was I was leaving a volunteer thank you event for the Cincinnati Concours, and someone mentioned, oh, they're going to sell that GTO. I'm like, what? I didn't think that was what, I felt like I would have known. And the owner's name is Jim Jager. That's all public knowledge. And I texted the son. I said, hey, are you guys selling the GTO? And it was hilarious because his response back was, are you open for coffee tomorrow? And I said, okay.
Yeah.
So I met him for coffee, and the answer was, we are not selling the car. And this is like 3 years ago or so. And the key part to me was at this time,
Yeah.
and so fast forward like a year and a half later or whatever, he wants to meet to kind of say, hey, we're thinking about selling the car. And at that point, the reason I was involved was because they had a relationship with me through networking, right? The biggest reason why was because of the power of RM Sothebys. It's specifically the sale of the Uhlenhaut coupe for $142
Yeah.
million, and so if you're trying, that car was very hard to come up with an estimate on. We put it at 60 million. It sold for 51.7 million because of the reasons we talked about. But if you're a private individual and you're trying to sell a $60 million car, let's say, that's daunting, like
Oh
you don't
yeah.
want, like if you're trying to get it out there and sell it, half the time people have to liquidate part of their collection to afford it. Do you want to take on these cars that are maybe worth 10 to $15 million and you have to sell them? Like it's a lot,
Yeah.
which is where someone like Sotheby's comes into play because they can handle all that. They can, if there are cars on trade-in, they can liquidate them at a future auction, or whatever, and that's how RM Sotheby's got involved. So it's really all about the power of RM Sotheby's and their network and everything else. I mean, I definitely am honored to be the consigning car specialist, but if I wasn't there, they probably would have found RM Sotheby's anyways because of the
Yeah.
Uhlenhaut sale. So,
Yeah.
but it's the relationships, and they knew me, and so it all worked out great. So basically, it's such a big car to sell that we had some folks fly in, ballparking how we're going to sell it, then and once we had a contract to sell the car, my job was to keep the family informed and happy,
Happy.
right?
Yeah. That's key.
But it was the RM Sotheby's machine that took over from there. And by that I mean, the marketing department, the PR department, the logistics folks, the Sotheby's side, because we had it at the New York Sotheby's headquarters, where it's a 7-story art museum, basically, or 8-story art museum, that they do, wine auctions and art auctions. And it was a single car sale. It was the only car sold that evening to kick off their art week. So
Yeah.
it was a total company collaborative effort. And I was just thankful to be a very small part of it.
So is that how you got your GTO? Your commission check?
Partially, that did pay for it. That was the other thing that was funny, and I mentioned it in Jay Leno's video, is while I'm dealing with the Ferrari GTO, I get asked to help sell a Pontiac GTO. And so I'm dealing with two GTOs at the same time. And I tried to recreate the car and driver GTO versus GTO back in 1964, recreate that because I had access to do two GTOs, and so I actually reached out to Car and Driver and they were interested. It would have been the 60th anniversary of that article. But the problem was they insisted that their writer would drive the Ferrari GTO. And the seller, Jim Jagger, he had a bad experience in the past letting an automotive journalist drive his, at the time, Daytona. Came back and it had a busted transmission.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so he didn't want to let a total stranger drive the car 3 weeks before it would sell just for a magazine article, right? But the son is a former race car driver. He drives the snot out of that car. If you watch the videos, he's driving it like crazy. And I said, well, have the son drive the car. You'll be in the passenger seat and you'll get the same experience, right?
Yeah.
Or 90% of it. But they didn't want to go for that. And it actually worked out well because my Pontiac GTO needed an engine rebuild because it only had 58,000 miles on it, but the owner was a race car driver. So my car would have blown up if we had done it, much less the Ferrari. So it all worked out well that they didn't want to do it. But I did get a picture of the two cars together, which is really cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, I mean, it would because of your car situation, but it's unfortunate because, in speaking with you up at M1 stuff, and it seems to be, we kind of have the same thought process in regards to how you can present, market something, get it out there. It's unfortunate when you run into someone that's, like Car and Drivers. Well, no, the journalist has got to drive it. Like, you're missing an opportunity here. That's like, when is this going to ever happen again? That it could
Right.
potentially be, and then you're being stubborn about it in regards because you just want this guy to drive. I'm like, you would think they'd be like all over it. I mean, that's like cover material, everything,
Right. For the
I mean,
60th anniversary. Yeah.
yeah,
Some of that stuff I just, I don't know. It seemed like a lost opportunity, but
yeah.
I don't know. So, like I said, my car would have probably blown up anyway, so it's probably good that it didn't. We didn't do it. So, yeah.
I gotcha. Yeah. So, you emailed back the other day, said, how often are you going out to go and hitting collections and stuff? Now, I mean, obviously it seems with RM, they're keeping you busy, you going everywhere, you regional. I mean, where else you go travel to?
So, this is probably a better question for one of the full-time RM folks. I'll give you my perspective, which is as a part-time consultant. Well, now doing it full-time, but you basically, it's like I said, it's based on relationships. If there's enough leads in an area, then it's viable for a trip out to meet folks. And so I can tell RM, hey, I'm going, this happened the other day. I'm going to Fort Wayne for a personal thing. I'm chasing a 67 Mustang, believe it or not. Can you send me some leads for that area? And these are folks that have registered either to buy or sell, that maybe there's not a strong relationship with anyone at RM. And you basically just kind of cold call them, and you might not know anything about them. You might just know their phone number, and they had registered at one point with RM for one of the auctions. And you just give them a call and leave them a message or shoot them an email and
Yeah.
say, hey, I'll be in your neck of the woods. Are you up for a visit? And so one example is this was outside of RM Sothebys. I have a good buddy of mine, Dave Snyder. He does a lot of the incredible artwork, a lot of muscle car stuff. Great artist. I mean, he does Porsches, he does everything, but he's known for putting a painting of the cars back in like the period picture. So he'll do a painting of, Camaros at Yanko's dealership, so it looks like it's from the 60s. Like, he does a really cool job. And we'll have lunch, and he'll mention, oh, do you know such and such, or do you know such and such? So he gave me a lead in the Fort Wayne area, and so I had that set up, and then I asked for some leads from RM Sotheby's, and this was a situation where I didn't have to jump on a plane, so much easier to do.
Yeah.
And so I went out there. Yeah, I went out there to look at one collection and one Mustang. And then they sent me some leads and set up another collection to look at. And then when I was at one collection, I asked, hey, is there someone else I should meet while I'm here? He's like, well, do you know such and such? I'm like, I have no idea who you're talking about. And then I go to his place, and it's, 34 Porsches and a F40 and some VWs, and just unbelievable, so that's how it is. It's kind of organic. You go there for you go there for hopefully one or two things, and it might turn into three or four things.
That 67 is not a gold one, is it?
No.
Oh, all right.
It's pink.
It's pink. Is it a Playboy car?
It's a Playboy color, but it's Playboy pink, but it wasn't a pink Playboy car because that was only 65 and 69, 69 and 65. Yeah. 390 big block 4-speed.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cause a mutual person we know up here is if he can come across a 67 Shelby in that gold.
Oh yeah, no, I wish.
Buy it. You probably know, but yeah, George is looking. He's like, I'll buy that thing in a heartbeat. That's the only thing color he doesn't have, is whatever. So
yeah, there's only like 24 of those, I think. So
yeah,
the other thing I'm doing, which it seems to be a good idea. I did it last night. Is I'm doing some public speaking, not only around the Ferrari GTO sale, but also the Jay Leno experience, so behind the scenes stuff. I'm talking about like how my career's gone in the last 4 years, because it's really gone really well. So I'm doing that at like private car storage places. I have a social event aspect. So I had two places in Dallas that wanted me to do it the other day. And that's cool because it benefits me, because I can network, meet new people.
Yeah.
I actually got a call from the Dallas guys yesterday saying, hey, this guy wants to sell his Mercedes in Monterey. And I'm like, oh, Monterey's closed. How about Hershey? Unfortunately it probably won't work out, but it's still, it's all about networking, getting to meet folks, and try to make it entertaining at the same time.
Yeah. So for people listening, this will be a plug for Greg, and I'll put it on mine website and everything, is to sign up for his newsletter. It's a great newsletter. He puts out, sends it out. It's got cool stuff, great stories. It's fantastic. So I'll put a link to that so you can sign up so you can get it and start receiving it in your inbox. It's really cool. Monthly, weekly, isn't it? Is it weekly?
No, it's whenever I can get to it. They're a lot of work. I'm glad you like it. I try to make it entertaining.
Yeah, no, I really like it. It's really cool because it's got cool stories and whatnot. It's not just hey, here's some stuff I'm looking for. It's got some cool content to it. So it's something that you want to open up and read. So but I'll put it on there so everyone listening, definitely sign up for that. It's really cool.
I appreciate that.
Hey, you ever gone up to I want to try and go, but up to Indianapolis for the automobilia stuff those guys do a few times a year, that group?
Yeah, I went there one time for their show. Actually, I think I judged their show one time. Very cool show down in Carmel, right? Downtown Carmel.
Yeah.
And if you can, I don't know if they still do it. Friday night, they had a dinner at the Lucas Oil family mansion. And,
really?
Just stunning location. I mean, I don't know how many acres it was, but just a stunning mansion with this boathouse. And, it's a fundraising event. So I can't remember. It was $100 a ticket or something, but really, really cool event. And they get some really nice cars there. I haven't been in a couple of years and I need to put it back on the calendar because that's a pretty cool show.
Yeah, I reached out to one of the guys, one of the organizers that's behind it all, and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about coming down because I was going to go because I was down in Tennessee and that for a Porsche event at Tail of the Dragon, and I was going to on my way back up, I was going to because they were going to have something. It was going to be just I don't know what the hell I forget what they were calling it, but it got canceled. And hindsight is I wish they wouldn't have canceled it because on my way through, I wouldn't have been going through Covington. I would have been going a different way. And on my way through Covington, I got clipped by a cop for doing 86 and a 55.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back, so, but my lawyer did good. $175 fine, and I just got to take an online driver diversion course. No points, no nothing. So,
so for reference, that is September the 7th.
Yeah. Yep.
I will not be there, unfortunately, because I'm flying up to Green Bay. I'm judging at the Ferrari annual meet at their big show up there, and up in Wisconsin. So, yeah. So you have to pick between Automobilia or the Ferrari show.
Yeah, I was, that was the thing. That's why I was curious about if you're, headed to, because I'm debating whether, I want to go to one or the other. And I was Indianapolis I can drive to, but the other involves, getting on a plane, doing all that. And that time of year, starting getting those arrangements gets a little hectic. So trying to squeeze things in and do things, because on a side thing, I also help run a nonprofit where we deal with children who've been injured in fires.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I kind of, deal with that a few hours a week. But we have our summer camp we do falling around that time of year, and some other events towards the end, because we try and get them before the kids go back to school and doing all this stuff. So,
okay.
So anyways, I'm trying, it's one of those things. And like we mentioned before, is this time of year, especially in this part of the country, there's so much stuff crammed in, because of the weather. You got that window of opportunity, and you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things.
Do you have any other crazy car specialist questions?
Well, they're always all crazy, aren't they? I mean, now
here's
going in, and this is what I always find fun is, because I've been, at this a long time, and you've obviously been to the cars and whatnot, but in kind of getting into this aspect of it, more recently, what's your, request or weirdest situation in regards to selling, either being part of the car, they want to sell it or buy it? What have you come across something that's oh my God, this guy's nuts?
I don't know if it's that extreme, but I have two that I'll keep. Well, two. One of them is I have someone that wanted me. He wants to sell a group of cars with us, but he wants us to prove our value first with another car. And I can't say what the car is. Well, it's like a race car. The problem is it's the hardest car to sell, I'd say. So, which I get, it's like, hey, if you could sell this, then I'll give you the others. But it's a car that's like no provenance, no history, wrong engine, you
Yeah.
know. Um, like I'm like, is it a salvage title? Like I get the reasoning behind it, but I'm like, you know, give us one of the other 40 cars. Let me prove it on one of the other ones that's a known commodity versus what is probably worth the parts and labor to build
Yeah.
it, or like it's just difficult. That's been a different request recently. Another one I had was to do some appraisals for a small collection of exotic cars, and this is when I had to walk away from because I wasn't quite sure what was going on. He's, he's like, I need them appraised, but you can't see them because I can't let my lawyers know what state they're in. Like something going on from a tax perspective, I believe.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a convertible, but the title says it's a coupe. So coupes are, I think it was a divorce thing, like, so coupes are cheaper. So can you appraise it as a coupe, not as what it really is? So I had to just walk away. I'm like, that's a little too weird and shady for me,
Yeah. I've had a few of those where it's the divorce situation, and and get it from both ends, the husband and wife, in regards to, because they, knowing both of them for a long time, and then all of a sudden they go south in the relationship. So it's not like only one party knows who I am. They both
Right.
know, and they know that person they're contacting me. So it's kind of like, I'm not getting in the middle of this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, to your point, one's trying to say, oh, it's only worth this, and the other's saying, no, it's worth 2 times that, because they
Right.
want their money, and he doesn't want to, God forbid, he doesn't want to lose any of his cars, all this stuff. And, and sadly, unfortunately, it ends up, hey, he loses half his collection,
Right.
and it's just gone. And for what he gets out of it is not, hey, you can't replace them and all this stuff. And those are always interesting because it's like you become a mediator. And then, like, your other point is, you have ones that guys are just being real shady, and it's like, you get someone that might be clueless or new at this, be like, well, we'll figure it out. It's like within the first 5 minutes of the conversation, like, no, I'm good. Maybe call someone else. No,
Yeah.
I'm kind of busy, so you maybe call someone else.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
never a dull moment. I will say that. There's always something interesting and happening, fun happening or whatnot. So it's always pretty, it's a great business to be in. It's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the one thing you mentioned earlier, which I can touch on just briefly, is how do you get into this business? Because you're like, people think it's a dream job and such. It's really, really hard because, there's so many obstacles. So if you want to come on board with RM Sothebys or whoever, and you're like, well, I know such and such, this mega collector, I can get him as my client. Well, he probably has a relationship already with
Yep.
somebody at RM Sotheby's, and it's probably the owner or is one of the partners or whatever, so it's really, really difficult. I tell people, if you are looking to do this, do something like help people with bring a trailer first, or Hemmings, because there's a lot of folks that would like to list their cars on those online sites, but maybe they're older, they don't have they're not internet savvy or whatever. And so you can set up a nice little consulting business helping people sell and bring a trailer, and that really gives you insight. If you find that that's easy, all right, then you maybe have what it takes to do it with one of the bigger places,
Yeah.
but you'll quickly find that's pretty hard,
Oh, yeah.
and like, yes, I was able to consign the big Ferrari GTO, but before that, I had 22 cars from one client here, there, that kind of stuff. I have 4 cars in our Monterey sale. It's difficult. Even if you have someone that says, I want these 3 cars in Monterey. Well, are they the right cars? Are they at the right price? Are they, where we feel like they're sellable? Are they have the right reserve? Do they agree to the right fees? Are they willing to do the transport? And I got cars into Monterey, and I couldn't get in 1967 beautiful Lincoln Continental convertible that was Concours, because that just doesn't fit Monterey. And so,
Yeah.
but he didn't want to take it to Hershey, and so like, all right, well, there's a car that's no reserve, $100,000 car, and I can't get it into an auction, like
Yeah.
it's a lot harder. And
Well,
even still, like Hershey, we're so far ahead on Hershey, they just put a note out saying, hey, we're only taking a handful more. That's not till October,
yeah.
and so if you're trying to make a living by getting cars to consign and the next big auction's already full, you got to wait till Scottsdale of January.
Yeah.
And if you're based in October and you're
Yeah.
trying to get cars over to, like, it's really difficult. There's a handful of windows. I mean, you can private sale all day, but that's difficult.
Yeah.
We have Sothebys Motorsport, which is online. So yeah, I always tell people, be a consultant for one of the other online where it's not as difficult first, and see how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I was fortunate because in my youth and younger days, I raced and just connection wise, and it's kind of like stumbling into it, so to speak. It's one of those things because people, and someone says, well, hey, I'm thinking about selling. It's like, well, if you need some help, let me know. And this was in my early 20s and late teens, kind of doing that, and it just grew from there. And but again, it was a long road. It wasn't like bam, just coming out of the gate and doing it.
Right.
It takes a lot of time, and the big thing is building clientele and doing it. And that was one thing I kind of figured out, or I guess I just sat down and said, okay, if I'm going to do this, what do I want to do? What's my passion? What can I do? And do it. That's kind of I've always been passionate about Ferraris. It's like, look, I'm going to just go down this path. A lot of guys, oh, hey, I'll get this and this and that. It's like, I didn't feel like I wanted to dilute myself.
Yeah.
And can I help someone? Hey, if you're looking for a Porsche, so yeah, I know Porsches are right. Getting some other things though, I'll steer them to someone else. I'll just like, okay, tell you what, here's a person, call this guy, talk with him. That's what he specializes in. He knows, that brand, those things, and doing it. And someone's going to say, well, but what about how are you going to get paid on it? I was like, well, look, I give that guy, yeah, he'll throw me a couple dollars, but I'm always been the adage, if you're chasing it after this because for dollars, thinking, hey, I'm going to make all this money, you're in there for the wrong reason.
Right.
My always says, look, just do what you love, figure out how you're going to, you can generate some money out of it, but don't make that the focal point, thinking, okay, it's all about, I want to make $500,000 selling cars. Like, you're not going to get there because you're going to be, because like you made that comment saying about the right number, because then you're going to be trying to sell stuff that there's no one's going to buy it because it's priced too high, and stuff like that. And, I get, people do LinkedIn, everything like that. And I always get asked by a lot of younger guys in their, early mid 20s and, hey, how do I get into this? It looks so fun. It's like, and the one big thing is because the way these kids were brought up, and it's no fault of their own, is, their internet, phones, everything from day one. We grew up, we're relatively, close in age. We didn't have any of that. It was Auto Trader, going to things, getting the penny saver, looking through newspapers and stuff like that, looking in the back of magazines. So you really had to work at it. But these guys, it's sending a text message or email, whatnot. And I always tell them, say, look, I go, if you really want to do it, pick up the phone. But if you're really serious about it, get in your car. If you got to drive an hour, you got to drive 10 hours.
Right.
Go knock on the door. I mean, you have to be proactive in regards to chasing this. And like I tell them, I say, look, it's going to take years to build up a database, a client base, just networking stuff. You got to get out there and get in front of people, and you need to talk to them.
Yeah.
Because, you're going to have your few that are in your age bracket, so to speak, that have some nice cars, but the majority of the people that have larger collections and whatnot are of a much older demographic. Right. So it's like, you need to know how to speak to them, talk to them, and everything like that. Never, because a lot of those people, they have kids, so hey, know the kids, whatnot. But it's like, it's a long road to hoe. I mean, it's it takes time, but it's if it's something you really want to do, you just got to stick to it. Because that's the one thing too, and as I'm sure you've seen, is where things are headed, especially like with older cars, restoration side, stuff like that. is, the influx of younger generation coming into learning that trade, learning all the nuances and everything like that is falling by the wayside. There's a few, colleges out there. The one in Kansas, McPherson, they're doing a great job. There's, a couple small ones that's more of a trade school type scenario. But, I tell people, I say, look, I go, you can make really good money working on these cars.
Right.
Learn it, because it's going to be more and more specialized as years go on. And when it becomes more specialized, you can charge more. Don't look at it saying, hey, you want to be the guy wearing the suit and stand in front and being all, hey, look at me. There's a lot more avenues you can pursue in this industry to make a living.
Yeah.
But it's going to be curious to see where things are in, say, 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I'm sure and see it, and you might, and be a question for you is the transition at the auctions in regards to what's hot and what's not. 10, 15 years ago, the age, that bracket of cars, the decade that's popular and bringing the money, just keep creeping up.
Yeah.
Away from your pre-war, then your 60s muscle cars, and now it's creeping up into your 80s cars that are bringing stupid money.
That's a whole podcast episode by itself right there, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just you see that, and you're Fox body Mustangs. I had one my senior year in high school, and I don't know how cheap we got it. My dad picked it up. It's a GT 5-speed, great car, loved it. And I see what they're bringing out. I'm like, oh my god, really? It's just
the first V8 Mustang I ever drove was an '86 Fox body V8.
Yeah. I love that car. Maroon charcoal interior. That thing was great. But it's just, you see those things, just like, man, it's like, where are we going to be at? Is it going to be the cars in the 90s? I mean, because you have that transition where cars, because of safety regulations, everything like that, I want to say became stale, but cookie cutter almost. Having this, all these, every manufacturer having a Halo car or something that's, a sports car, two-door sports car or anything like that.
Right.
Fell by the wayside. They all start building SUVs because obviously they got to make money. And that's the hot thing everyone wants. I mean, shit, look at Ford now. Ford's, the only one thing is the Mustang now. And hell, they named a freaking EV after the damn brand name.
I know.
Come on. And everything else is trucks or SUVs. I mean, it's, and unfortunately, and I kind of laugh at it, I'll never own an electric car. The technology great, but I just don't see it. And these manufacturers, I think, got way ahead of themselves with these things.
Right.
And again, too, think about that. I mean, we'll be long gone by the time that's common. But only collector thing you see is like a Rimac or something like that. You have these one thing that's all electric. I mean, it just
it'll be really interesting to see, because I know we had a Tesla that really low mileage, 1,900 miles, the original Roadster, first year. And I think this is back at Elkhart a couple years ago, right after COVID. And, the estimate was 60 to 80 grand, and it went for like 160, because it was the lowest in the world. And there was some auction fever going on and stuff. But that's a very interesting conversation. And what I think, the fact that their battery longevity is going to really, I think those will not be that collectible because of the technology. I think a lot of cars, even the brand new Ferraris now that are going through the roof as instant collectibles, I don't think long term they will be, because of maintenance and parts availability and stuff like that, electronics and everything. So Jay Leno mentioned it recently. He's like, mechanical stuff you can fix, when it goes bad. Electrical stuff degrades over time. So different thing, and so I feel like there's a couple key eras, and I should probably wrap this up here shortly, but I think the 60s cars are going to stay strong because they're drivable. You can customize them, you can rest them on them, they can keep up with today's traffic, they're fun. I also think the analog supercars going up until 2012, 2013, that's a really, really good sweet spot. You've got manual, you've got, Ferrari, 575s, I think that's a really good sweet spot right there too, where I think those will always be desirable.
Well, here's a question for you. in regards to, I mean, this is kind of they're doing it with some other vehicles, but like a lot of main thing is Ferraris because obviously, you started with the 355 doing that terrible F1 transmission that was basically just all solenoids and whatnot and just making it change the gears going up. But what's your thought on, I'd say, and I watch this closely because I get to ask this quite a bit because, as you went up, 355s and 360s production wise, majority was manual. But then as you got into the 430, it was a big flip in regards to production numbers, F1 transmission to manual. So now like F430s, factory manuals are obscenely priced. I mean, you got one, I think Ryan Friedman's got one. He's got a big trail, but he had one. It was like $500,000 because they had 6,000 miles. I'm like, Jesus, and then, and like 550s, that whole production was all manual, but then 575s, it was more heavy F1 transmission, but EAG's doing these, conversions. Right.
Yeah.
In your opinion, how do you think that's affecting value? I mean, is someone going to look at it saying, well, this car the transmission in it is a manual transmission. It's just they removed all the solenoids and whatnot and put the gator back in. How do you think that really compared to the factory?
Well, two things. I actually have to go in a second because I have another interview in 3 minutes. But but let me answer the question. I think there'll be a couple that will pop higher in price than you think they should. I think in general, though, there'll be a premium for those because of the manual, but it won't eclipse the cost to do it. So say it costs $100,000 to do it, maybe it adds $60,000 to the value. So I don't think you'll get your money out of it long term if you're making those transitions. It also highly depends on who is doing it. It's kind of like when people did the Daytona Spider conversions. The Spiders there's 121 of them or something. Yeah. Those are $3 million cars. The conversions are more than a coupe if it's done by someone that was noted and did a good job at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of those things. So I really appreciate you being on my podcast, and I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Yeah. No, it was great. No, I said, I hope, it was a lot of fun. And he said, I know you got another thing to go to, and I'm sure we could probably talk for another 2-3 hours. So, but yeah, we'll be in touch. Like I said, I'll let you know because about making up to Milwaukee. Like I said, I'm still kind of figuring out where I want to go. I'll let you know, but I appreciate it.
I'll let you know I'm back in Cleveland and we can go hit some car stuff together.
Perfect. Awesome. Really appreciate it.
Thanks William.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
You too. See ya.